right. All right. Did our link go? Let's see. Let's see if our link fired out there. Hopefully so. Let's check.
Yeah, I see it.
Sweet. All right. Well, hey, everybody. Andrew here with Nashville Severe Weather.
No. Shit. I'm sorry. I see the old one. I see the last one, the one an hour ago.
We're live. We're good. All right. Hey, everybody. Andrew here with Nashville Severe Weather. Will, Elon, Tom, and Graham on here. And Luke is joining us as well, our web guy. He's over kind of watching the chat, I think. And so let's talk about some winter weather. All right. We got some folks joining us here. That's good. It's always nice to be doing something like this instead of severe weather, like coverage, like tornado coming through. So this is not that. So we just thought we'd jump on here for a little bit and talk about the winter weather potential coming up this weekend. Hey, we know there's been a lot of stuff thrown at you over the last several days. Some of that you've gotten, I mean, many of you have gotten information from many different sources, and which is good. And the more sources, the better. But we also know that some of that can be confusing. We've been answering a lot of questions about, hey, what does this mean? What does this mean? Is this reliable? Is this not reliable? Many questions about that. And we like that. That's great. Thanks for asking us. So we thought tonight, and maybe in other nights as well, leading up to this event this weekend, we would just sort of sort through all the papers on the desk and sort of kind of organize things here a little bit for you and just tell you what we're looking at. So we will sort of take some different directions here tonight. I'll kind of walk through what we're looking at meteorologically. It's a little late to say that, isn't it? And Tom's going to help out with that too. And we're just going to we're going to look at those models, some of the models that, y'all have seen numbers all over the place on models, and we have too. And so going to kind of let you know what we're watching there on the models. To be honest with you, we're not really focusing on the snow amounts when we're looking at the models. And I know that sounds strange because that's what everybody's been focusing on. That's not what I've been watching today on the models. And so we'll talk about that as well. So let's dive in and let's talk about some meteorology. What do you say? Let's talk about the weather. All right, I'm going to share my screen. Let's go here. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to do it in a different way so that we can all see, I think. Let's try this. Uh-oh, we lost Graham. Graham, we love you, buddy. We may get him back.
Come back soon.
Yeah, he's there. He's just behind the. Oh, there we go. Better.
Oh, there he is.
Okay. All right. Let's take a look at some models here. And let me share with you kind of what we're watching. All right. So let's go to the GFS. All right. This is an American model that let's sort of walk through time here. And what you see is this big system down here in the southern part of the United States. All right. So just general setup. We have, cold air that's going to already be in place, a lot of moisture being pulled in. Questions surround sort of how much moisture will be pulled into this system. So, but there's a lot of moisture here. And of course, with the cold temperatures in place, that leads to winter weather. The center of the system will be sort of a Gulf Coast traveling system. For those of you in Middle Tennessee, if you've lived here a while, I've been here just over 40 years, and I can tell you that our big snows come when a low pressure system goes across the Gulf Coast states. Those are when that's when we get our good snows around here. So this is that system. It's a pretty textbook system for us to get winter weather out of it. So it has. That's why we've kind of been pretty sure this thing was going to cause some winter weather for us over the past few days. It's just, even though details are still sketchy. So if you walk through time here again, you can see we're pretty much here, pretty solid in the snow here on the GFS model. All right, this is the 25th at, so this would be Sunday at about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, I guess, a.m. And walking through time here, the snow ends, sometime Sunday evening. All right, so that's the GFS. And yeah, it's going to show some pretty big numbers as far as, let's pick a snowfall map here and drill down a little bit. We're not huge on these snowfall totals, but the reason is because things can change. We'll explain that in just a second. But yeah, this is where you get your big snow totals that you've seen online and in other places here off the GFS model. All right, we're in snow pretty much the whole time. Now, one thing that we watch, and I'll explain this real quick here, is that one thing we watch more than the snow totals is the trends. The trends in the models. All right. So how is this line or this area of greatest snow concern shifting with each model run that may run 4 times a day, 3 times a day, 5 times or 6 times a day, whatever. All right. So when this model runs, how is this trend changing? I'll illustrate this for you. All right. This is through, this is snowfall through Monday at 3 a.m. All right. So we're going to go to look at a trend. And now what we get here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 different model runs of the GFS at this particular time, and watch how things evolve. All right. So you can see it went from nothing to kind of bouncing around, right? It's not been real consistent on exactly where that snow line sets up. How are you supposed to make a forecast off of one model and one model run? This is exactly why that's hard, all right, is because that line's bouncing all over the place with different model runs. All right, that's one illustration. So let's go over to the European model. And you go to the European model, and what it has for us on this latest run, the latest run that came in this afternoon. Let's go through snowfall through 3 a.m. Monday. That's changed quite a bit since the model run earlier today. All right. So let's look at the trend and see what the trend has done. Let's back it up just a little bit. And I'll show you what we're talking about. Let's go to Sunday at 6 p.m. All right, now let's look at a trend here. All right, it has been pretty consistent with that snow band being pretty well over Middle Tennessee, the heavier snow totals, until this latest run, and it shifted it north. Okay, what happened? Well, let me show you exactly what happened. What happened is on this latest run, and this is the kind of stuff we got to watch for. On this latest run, we had, let me zoom out a little bit. Let's see here. Right here. All right, and let's go to 108 hours. Let's go here. This is Sunday. Sunday at midnight, right? Let's see here. Am I in the right place here, Tom? This looks like a worm nose to me.
Well, what forecast time is that? Looks like it's pretty. That's
That's
valid.
Sunday the 25th
That's
at
no,
6
that's
that's midnight.
okay. It's 198 hours. Okay.
Yeah. Oh,
All right.
wait. Yeah, here. So, oh, wait, I'm sorry. I knew that looked weird. All right, here we go. I'm in the
Okay.
right place.
Yeah.
Right now. Yeah. Okay, here it is. All right. At this stage, what the Euro is showing happening is that right off the ground, there is a layer of warm air above freezing that's at a few thousand feet. All right. So 2 Celsius. I'm right over Davidson County here. 1, 2, 3 Celsius. All right. So see this layer of warm air, this yellow and the greens, is pushing up into Middle Tennessee and would cause, even though the surface is below freezing, up here a few thousand feet in the air, it's above freezing. So what the reason that the snow totals dropped so much in this run is because this introduces the possibility that ice comes into play in Middle Tennessee much more than the other runs showed. But we have to remember the trends. The trend is now if this holds for, and this does this for another 4 or 5 model runs, well, there's something to it. But does this happen in one model run and then in 6 hours it's going to flip right back to where it was? All right, so it's what I'm trying to illustrate is it's very difficult to create a snow forecast when something like this happens this far out and models are all over the place and trying to figure out exactly what's going to happen. Is that on the right track, Tom? Does that make sense at all the way I'm explaining it?
Absolutely. The main players that are going to come in and drive what we get here in Middle Tennessee really haven't come together yet across the country. So there's a main player for me, and the thing that's going to make the difference between snow or not a lot of snow or ice is the strength of this high pressure that's coming down out of Western Canada and dropping down towards Middle Tennessee from the northwest. So the models don't have a great handle on that yet and won't have a great handle on that for another 24 to 36 hours. So that's going to keep that uncertainty and that kind of windshield wiper effect of back and forth as the models try to figure out exactly how strong and how deep that cold air is going to be as it surges into Middle Tennessee.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why models are struggling. They're struggling with exactly where their system's going to be. Another thing they struggle with is that these are very low resolution models compared to the ones that like the HRRR that we would show in thunderstorm situations and stuff like that. That generally do a pretty good job with that real high resolution granular information. One thing that we're dealing here with the GFS and the Euro models is that we're asking a lot of them. We're asking them to do a lot of things in a situation like this where, let me illustrate this for you. Let's go back to 2016. Let's go back to 10 years ago. All right. If you were around here in 2016, you may remember this situation where we had a winter storm. And I was in Nolensville, and I remember it sleeting in the morning. Was not expecting that. Woke up at about 6 o'clock in the morning with sleet hitting the window, and that kind of caught me off guard. And we ended up with about 4 inches of snow and sleet in Nolensville, and there were areas up in Oak Hill that had, there were solid 10, 12-inch snow totals. And it was just amazing, the gradient and the difference in the snow that we know where it was all snow, and then where there was some of that warm air kind of crept in there down there south of 40, and is sort of it really cut down those snow totals. So I bring this up as I know we want a lot of snow, but just kind of remember 2016, where you get a situation like that, where just enough warm air makes itself known up in the atmosphere, and it can drastically cut down snow totals. So that's the stuff we're watching. And Tom, you can probably explain a little bit better, hey, what are these folks at the Weather Service, as someone who worked there for many, many years and made a career out of working at the National Weather Service, including here in Nashville, what are they watching? I mean, hey, we got all these models that have been spitting out snow totals for days now. Why is there no snow map with snow totals on it? Talk to us about what they're doing right now.
Well, a lot of what they're sharing are probabilities. So maybe you can share in a minute a graphic they put together today that's a probability of 6 inches or more of snow. And I think those are fair things to share as opposed to putting out, this is what we expect. So that's a graphic the Weather Service put out today. And we're talking in probabilities, not deterministic, which is like the number we think is actually going to happen. It's just too far out. There's too much uncertainty right now to try to nail it down to amounts and locations. But there's a high probability of a significant snowfall for much of Middle Tennessee, certainly our service area in Williamson and Davidson counties. There's some uncertainty with when the precipitation is going to start. So I think one thing we'll have to watch is does any snow enter our area late in the day on Friday? That's something the Weather Service is looking at. But the timing of this, whether it comes in late Friday, Friday night, or even Saturday morning, that's going to tie into when they start putting out their advisories, their watches, and their warnings. So we're a little early in the game for all that, but they're sharing probabilistic information, which is showing at this point, yeah, there's significant chances. A 55% chance of 6 inches or more of snow in Middle Tennessee 3 days out is major. That's big time. So following how these probabilities trend, as you opened up with us tonight, Andrew, is the way to go. If these probabilities trend higher and higher, that's a good sign. The confidence continues to grow. If it stays the same or drops, now we're starting to talk about that mix and that precipitation. So when I forecast and when I worked here in Middle Tennessee for the National Weather Service, we learned over the years that if there's a chance that it could mix, it will almost certainly mix. Something about the topography and the storm system tracks here tend to allow some nose of warmer air to come into play. You were showing earlier the 850 millibar map. That's 4,000 feet or so above the ground. Sometimes that warm nose is 6,000, 8,000, even 10,000 feet up. So warmer air, and that's why it's so difficult to forecast. We're not talking about much warmer air. It can be 32.5 degrees versus 31.5 degrees in a layer of a couple thousand feet above the ground. And that makes it a different precipitation type. So when we forecast days out, trying to nail down a 1 degree difference in temperature, 4,000 feet above the surface, it's impossible. So we have to communicate the chances with probabilities and general outlooks as we're this far out.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, that is an excellent description of what's going on and helpful to sort of understand how this forecast evolves. So you always start more general, more sort of broad overview of sort of what the forecast possibilities are, and then as you get more data in over the next few days, things start to tighten up and narrow down. You get more consistency. And it's just a journey. We've always sort of described the winter weather forecasts around here, really severe weather too. It's a journey. You start at one place and you're going to end up at a different place, and you just have to walk that journey of the forecast and see where it ends up. Incidentally, you were talking about watches and warnings a moment ago. The Weather Service mentioned about an hour ago. They said that there are some watches already out over there in Arkansas. So the watches will expand eastward as clusters of offices sort of collaborate. So Nashville will collaborate with Memphis and Huntsville and Morristown, all the other Weather Service offices around. They'll collaborate on their watches for winter weather. And so as different offices collaborate, they would expect that we would get watches in Tennessee tomorrow. And then those watches would be updated to warnings or advisories, generally 24 to 48 hours before the onset of impacts. So again, the whole thing is it's a journey from start to finish, and we are somewhere in the middle. All right, we're somewhere in the middle of the journey. We're long from started. We did that several days ago, but we are far from finished. And so we're just kind of right in that in between time where we have to. There's a lot of nuances still yet to figure out. Okay, so let's talk just a second. Will, Will is our reports guy and has done, man, for years. Will has done an awesome job at reports. I mean, this is his thing, and he knows how to measure snow, because a lot of us have no idea how to measure snow. You just go out and stick a ruler in the mud and
As
or in
deep
the
as you can into
as
the
deep as you
grass.
can, and we end up with these huge snow totals in a
30
drifted
inches
area
of
of snow.
snow.
Tell us, Will, how to measure snow.
Yeah, so I want to talk a little bit about measuring snow, then I want to go back to kind of the snow versus ice topic. Measuring snow is pretty simple. There, you can get really technical with it. You can talk about how the weight of the snow itself compresses over time and how that can skew measurements. But really, the easiest thing to do is, once an hour, go out, sweep off, go out and find a hard surface, stick a ruler in it, measure that area. If it's on, let's say, a table on your back deck, sweep the snow off of that after an hour, after you measure it. Sweep the snow off, and an hour later, go back out, measure it again. And every hour, go out and measure it and give us that total. There's nothing wrong with going out and just sticking a ruler in on your back deck and saying, hey, we've got 5 inches or so. What you don't want to do is measure it on a soft surface. So don't want to measure in grass, mulch, anything like that, because, as you push down, you could be pushing further, below the surface. When we talk about the snow versus ice, Andrew spent a lot of time talking about warm nose and what that could do to precipitation type. We call those warm noses Ned, warm nose Ned. Got a big nose on a temperature plot. That really will be the difference maker for just how bad impacts are related to the roads, power, and whether or not the airport's open, stuff like that, right? Ice is a whole different story for us to try to clear off the roads, and that's I think Andrew's right. That's where our focus is going to be over the next 24, 48 hours. Is trying to identify where that line is going to be. Regardless, things are lining up to be a.
Are we losing Will?
What? You can't hear me?
Oh, was that just me, or was that everybody?
He was breaking up a little bit, but I never lost him.
Oh, okay.
Oh, my bad.
All right. Sorry, Will, go ahead.
Sorry. So, yeah, things are all lining. I think, we'd all agree things are lining up to be a high impact winter weather event, right? And whether or not that's ice or snow, that's the big question that we'll be trying to answer. But regardless, it's going to impact travel. Whether it's snow, ice, you'll still have some modicum of impact. A lot of questions came in today about, what about flights? We're not the airport. What I can tell you is they do have snow plows, and if airplanes can land, that's what they're going to do. They're going to try to get as many airplanes in as they can.
One way to sort of illustrate this winter precipitation thing here, as far as where you get snow, sleet, freezing rain, just rain, you have to envision that the atmosphere, it's 3 dimensions. I mean, it's not, if it's 32 degrees right here at my house, it's not 32 degrees all the way up, and it's not 32 degrees way over there. It's going to be different in different places and aloft. So you can see there with the this is an illustration I've used for a long time in our schools when talking to kiddos and just saying, hey, this is why weather balloons are important. Weather balloons are very important. One reason for this. So we can get a very good idea of what precip might fall when we have a profile of the atmosphere from bottom to top. And so if it's, if it's below freezing all the way up and down, then it's going to be all snow. Now, how cold it is may determine whether that's a real light, fluffy snow, or if it's a very wet, heavy snow. Okay. So there's some variation there, but it's going to be all snow. All right. If it's cold all the way up and down. If you got a little bit of warm air up there, depending on where it is, then that's going to be sleet. Those little ice pellets. That really cuts down on snow totals when that happens. When you get those little sleet pellets, that's what happened to us in Nolensville about 10 years ago. Really cut down our snow totals. When you get a little bit more warm air and that snow melts to rain and then doesn't have time to freeze again, but it's below freezing at the ground, that's when you get the ice storms. I think of 1994 around here. I was talking to some friends at work today about that. I was a kid. We lived over in the Creve Hall area. Man, you talk about an experience that was a little apocalyptic to me as a kid, man. All those trees coming down and power flashes everywhere. Our power was out for a long time, and a lot of folks here, didn't have power for close to a week. That's an ice storm. That's freezing rain. We don't want that. We do not want that. So that's why we're a little bit, seeing that warm air kind of sneaking in there on the Euro. It has our attention a little bit. Just, we hope that's not a trend that stays in place. But that's freezing rain. It's just liquid rain that's falling and freezes on contact with anything it hits.
And Andrew, we can mention that if there is ambiguity about that as the system approaches, we will launch a balloon to measure it. That's one of the things our balloon does really well, is sample where we are. Are we in snow, sleet, freezing rain territory?
Yep, that's right. And we've done that before and had a good profile of the atmosphere, maybe right before some precipitation gets here. Helps us understand a little bit better what precipitation we're looking at. So that just kind of gives you an idea of how this works. It's a very delicate process around here. It's very rare that we get a system that is just as cut and dry, slam dunk, snow from the Kentucky border to the Alabama border. That I could probably count on one hand the number of times that's happened since I've lived here, Tom. It's not quite that easy ever. So
never. I think a couple of things I've noticed about this system. If you're in Camp Snow, I think that the fact that the high pressure is building in from the northwest as opposed to retreating to the northeast, that favors the cold air sticking around. There's also not a super strong area of low pressure. That's what gets us a lot of times, is a big low bombs out over the southern Gulf, and that just gets too much warm air in play. Not to say that won't happen, that the setup is there. But those are things to me that point towards more snow than ice. The main thing that is ice is just my experience here. It just finds a way to mix if there's any possibility. So it's going to be one that's going to be very interesting to watch. I think that certainly by late tomorrow, those details, that mesoscale detail of what the atmosphere is going to look like above the surface will start to get a little more clear. I think you mentioned the Weather Service really does believe, and I think it's true. We'll see watches starting to come out tomorrow for Tennessee. Whether or not it's Middle Tennessee or not is waits to see, but it's coming, right? This is one of those situations where the potential for impacts are extremely high. And it's just a matter of working out the details, and it's the details that really matter.
Chris asked a good question here, and I just want to address it before we move on. I want to ask Elin something about the blog here in just a second. But, he mentions just having buried power lines in your neighborhood help at all with ice. Yes, but from experience, I'll tell you that a lot of times it's not your neighborhood that's the problem. It's 4 doors down if you're near the edge of the neighborhood, where the power lines all of a sudden are above ground again for the next 10 miles to the substation. That's the problem. So even though you may have underground utilities in your neighborhood, it's that's great, but that doesn't fix what happens the other 90% of the length of that line on the circuit. So you gotta, but hey, I gotta tell y'all, we have toured both utilities recently, Nashville Electric Service and Middle Tennessee Electric, and we have learned so much about their preparations and their operations. And
boy, they're ready.
Oh man, it really, I had no idea. the prep work that they put into situations just like this. and it really is amazing how quickly they can mobilize and fix problems. Maybe not as fast as some of us want them to fix them. I get it. But there's so many of them, and there's a lot of us. And they have an amazing plan for situations just like this. So that was very interesting to do and get to know, and sort of, in no way corresponded to this forecast coming up that we visited. It's just but it really is timely just to understand a little bit about how they work. Elin, tell us a little bit about blogs. We're doing we're changing a little bit of how we do blogs, and we've talked with Elin about that. We're gonna back off a little bit of just like the everyday, hey, there's nothing going on this entire week, so we're not sure we're going to write a big blog about that. If there's nothing going on, we may cut back on the blogs just a little bit, and not fill up your inbox and that sort of thing if there's just nothing going on during the week. This is not that week, Elin, so I assume we're going to be writing every day this week. But tell us a little bit about where you get your information. And Elin is our rock star blog guy. Elin's voice has become so familiar in those blogs. It's just amazing. So he does a great job with that. But Elin, tell us about what you're going to be looking for and your blogs this week.
Yeah, so this is definitely not a week to take off on the blogs. We'll be writing every day. I'll have them out around lunchtime every day, just because of the schedule. We've got to work on classes. But I'll be looking at really the same stuff that we were kind of looking at tonight. Whether it be the models from different websites, looking at all the information that we see from the Weather Service office in Nashville, their graphics, their super nerdy area forecast discussions, which are super cool, contain a lot of good info. So those are always interesting. And we'll be looking at that and just trying to put it into essentially a written form of kind of this video, just breaking down different stuff, whether it's the timing, precipitation type, amounts, impacts, stuff like that. So the past couple of days, we've been kind of focusing on the probabilities, as we stated, just since we're still several days out. But over the next couple of days, we'll be able to narrow down on those total amounts that everybody loves to talk about, whether it's ice or snow or a little bit of both. We'll get those numbers straight from the Weather Service office, and we can talk about what's expected, and maybe some reasonable high-end amounts and some reasonable low-end amounts as well, just because you never know what we're getting here, especially in Middle Tennessee.
Now, Elin, Vanderbilt plays Mississippi State this weekend. What's the forecast for people heading down to Starkville?
We're I don't know if travel will be any good here too. We're expecting
travel not advised.
Yeah, I wouldn't advise it. That's for sure. We're expecting more ice down here, so really not looking forward to that. I would definitely rather be home enjoying.
Now, why would you not want people from Nashville coming down there to that game?
I don't know if we have to talk about that one.
Okay. Well, hey, y'all. Yeah, I appreciate y'all are giving Elin a lot of love here in the chat. I appreciate that, and we agree with all of it. Elin got a question earlier this evening on Twitter. I think he ought to answer it because he dug the hole himself. He was talking in the blog today about how, go get something about your bread and milk at the store or whatever. And he said something like, but that's not what I would go get. That's kind of ridiculous. I mean, what would somebody ask? We're like, well, then what would you get at the store, Elin? If you're going to be shut in at the house and you got a winter storm coming, I mean, what could you possibly want at the store other than bread and milk?
Personally, I'm just not too big of a fan of milk sandwiches. So, but I'm also not a great cook. I cook pretty much the same thing every night for dinner. It's just rice, ground beef, eggs, avocado, a little bit of sriracha. It's fantastic. But that's all I grabbed at the grocery store today. Actually, I did grab 2 cans of soup just in case things go south. Just in case.
2 cans of soup?
Just 2. I'm prepared to ration them out.
Oh, Elon, that's hilarious. Somebody needs to take that brother to dinner.
Yeah. Some other questions that came in from the chat. Somebody asked, Taylor Strategic Comms asked, how often do models run? And are they always at set times? Just trying to understand. And somebody earlier asked this question about why we can't use the HRRR, which is something that we always talk about on mesoconvective days. Two reasons. One, the HRRR and other convective allowing models just aren't in range yet, right? It will be 48 hours at best before the onset of snow when they'll be in range. And yeah, models do run at specific times. Different models have different periods in between, but yeah, you can see pretty clearly every one of those models has a homepage and how often they get published, how often they run. Convective allowing models generally run every hour.
Two cans of soup.
Somebody said beef jerky, burritos, 16 loaves of bread.
Well, so what other questions y'all got? So I think we've kind of run through
a lot of just like general, what is our best guess of when we think it's going to arrive?
Okay, yeah, that's to be determined. That it could range from, it could range from midday Friday to overnight Friday night into Saturday. We're not ready to give ETAs on the onset yet.
What we can do, Andrew, is we can ask the National Weather Service if they can do a graphic tomorrow.
Yeah.
For like an earliest, like kind of like hurricane graphics. We can do those kind of things on arrival time, like a reasonable arrival time for snowfall in the mid-state is a reasonable ask.
Good call. Yeah, we can check with them, see if they'll do that.
It's the same thing we do for QLCSs, arrange as it moves west to east. Someone called Elon the Bill Hall of the 2020s. That's high praise, at least for us.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
Somebody asked, any snow Thursday, Friday? No. A little bit of rain maybe over the next couple of days, nothing big. And then we'll wait for the temperatures to drop and snow to head this way.
Well, one of the things I mentioned early in the call, and this is something the Weather Service can help us crystallize tonight or tomorrow, is occasionally with systems like this, the snow will come in just a little earlier than expected. So that could bring late Friday into play. I don't know, rush hour Friday, but late Friday could come in play. And you see that in some of the guidance as a windshield wiper back and forth. Some of the runs, you will see snow spreading in here late in the day, Friday. Most guidance, the reasonable worst case, the reasonable expectation rather, would be Friday night to early Saturday morning is the timing. But don't close the book just yet on late Friday. I think we'll have a better handle on that tomorrow. But yeah, that's how things look timing wise.
Pam asks about driving to Lexington, Kentucky. That would be a very bad idea. If we get 6 inches, they're going to get 10, 12, right? So looks like the way the models have been trending is that there'll be more snow north of us. Travel this weekend is not something that's going to be easy. And so I had somebody text me earlier today saying, Mom, my wife's in Florida. They're coming back on Saturday. Do you think they should come back on Friday? And I said, yeah, unless they just love the uncertainty of when their flight will actually leave, probably a better idea to come back on Friday. All right, Andrew, you want to bring us home?
Yeah. So just to recap a little bit, we've talked about the model data that has been flying all over the place on social media, and I think when you look at that in the grand scheme of the models, and that we are watching trends in the models rather than just 1 or 2 model runs, even 4, 5, or 6 model runs, we're looking at a lot of different. We're looking at that on lots of different models. and then watching for trends. So we're still in that mode, is looking at trends and not amounts. And then that will be more refined as other models come into range, higher resolution models come into range, and the forecast will get more and more refined over the next 24, 48 hours for sure, as things come into a little bit better picture. So we also mentioned, those of you that weren't here, we mentioned 2016, and I'm just going to throw this graphic up one more time. In 2016, 10 years ago, in fact, exactly 10 years ago, some of y'all will remember when there were huge snow amounts. I mean, it was like this was the biggest snowstorm in 20-something years, 25 years, I think, 28 years in Nashville, was this storm in 2016. And there were huge snow totals in Davidson County. And I mean, several reports of a foot of snow, especially in just west of downtown, down into Oak Hill. And we had, I lived in Nolensville, we had 4 inches. And it was just like we had so much sleet that fell. It just cut into those snow totals. So just a reminder, I mean, this system could pan out this way. I mean, that's one of the possibilities, that it pans out like this. So that's just one thing to keep in mind as we get a little bit of warm air that could make its way into Middle Tennessee. That just impacts the snow total. So we're just going to have to watch that and see how that evolves over the next few days.
I'm sorry, let me interrupt. There's one other question that I wanted to answer. People are asking, how long will this stick around if it does snow? Which is a very reasonable question. And the answer to that is, if we get snow, anything that falls frozen Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, is going to stay frozen well into the middle of next week. There's some brutal cold coming behind this that I'm sure Elon will touch on as we get closer. But temperatures in the 20s for highs, in the teens for lows overnight following this. So it's going to stick around for a while, probably middle of next week before any of this meaningful melt happens. That doesn't mean that roads won't be clear and the sun won't do its job and melt some, but real melting won't happen until the middle of next week.
Yeah. Sorry, I had to switch earpieces here and missed most of what you said, but I think it was about the temperatures after this thing comes through. Yeah, it's going to be brutally cold. So it's going to take a while. Yep. Cool. Anything else, guys?
I saw
We're
David,
not going to tell you about your school.
Say again, Graham.
I saw David lurking in the chat.
Oh, our good friend David, friend of the show, was the show for a long time. Welcome, David.
David can tell you if your school's going to be out or not. Put that on him now. Yeah. For those of you that are new, we won't tell you about your particular drive. We don't know. We probably will team up with our friend Traffic Jam Sam to talk about roads some. We can't tell you about your flight, your school, your brother-in-law's commute. It's really difficult for us to pinpoint any of that right now. Once we start getting reports in, we'll certainly share those and help you guys try to make informed decisions. But leading up to it, man, don't ask us because we don't know.
Somebody said, do this again tomorrow, please. We're thinking about it. We'll consider what's changed. We may do maybe a short briefing or something. We'll figure it out, but we'll see what's changed tomorrow and may talk about that potentially each day as we lead up to the event. We'll just see. We'll see how it evolves. All right. All right. Y'all have a good night, and we'll see what tomorrow brings. All right.